Hello, everyone, and welcome to Call to Awaken. I am your host, Julie Hart, and I am super excited to have with us a very special guest speaker, Gregory Hoag. And for those of you who are not yet familiar with Gregory, he is a scientist, artist, and best-selling author. He has been a leading expert on sacred geometric technologies since 1972, focused on improving health, raising consciousness, reducing stress, clearing emotional and electromagnetic interference, and manifesting intent. Over 4 decades of research have fueled a scientific instrument unlike any other called the iConnect from Metaforms. And this advanced technology expands awareness, enhances relationships, and activates your purpose. And the iConnect is a tool that serves one comprehensive purpose, and that is connection. Today, Gregory will share how connection is the solution to all difficulties by creating an integration with the higher realms. And I'll share with you how you can discover your next evolutionary step during this most powerful time in Earth's history. Gregory, thank you so much for being with us today. This topic is super exciting, and I'm really happy to have you with us.
Thank you, Julie. It's really fun to be here. And so, where do we start? There's so much to cover.
There really is. And perhaps would you like to start by sharing with us how your life's journey has led you into this really intriguing form of research and development and leading you to creating the iConnect?
It's something that began when I was about 10 years old and started connecting with something bigger than myself. Just that sense that there's more going on than just what can be seen. And I worked at that time feeling very close to nature, very close to what I saw as devas, as fairies in the land where I lived. And then as I started growing up, getting bigger, I started forgetting about that and kind of went through a phase where I started denying everything. The college years where, is there a God? Is there anything real? And then something clicked within me. At the end of my college years in 1970, I had some very profound experiences with meditation, and that led to building a pyramid that back in the 70s with a friend cost over $50,000 to build, with crystals, this big around, and crystal balls and crystals 3 feet high inside this pyramid. And it set off my kundalini. Do you know what that is? It's the energy that in Hindi philosophy comes up from the earth. And that energy started altering my body. It started putting me through a space where holes were literally being burned in the bottom of my feet because there was so much energy coming into my body. And when I finally got it grounded, finally got it calmed down, I started hearing information. I started seeing information. It's like all around us, what we consider our reality is only a small part of what really is. And what I started discovering is that there are multiple dimensions of reality, and there are energies, beings, consciousnesses that live on all these dimensions and are very interested in our well-being, because we are at the depth, the outreach of density. This is as slow and thick as it seems to be in the whole multi-dimensional universe. And human beings have the incredible opportunity of being able to bridge this gap into these higher realms and be able to ground that higher dimensional energy, that flow of consciousness, love from God, really, if you will, and ground it into this reality and to share that consciousness and love here. That's our opportunity as a conscious being. And so when that started happening, I started seeing patterns that were being shared with me that I started building. Shapes that, sometimes were simple shapes like this that could be built out of metal. At the time I was working with bronze. I was a welder, and I was making belt buckles. And so I started making these shapes, and people started feeling energy from them. They'd say, oh, that's interesting. When I have this around, when I feel this come close to me, something's going on. It's vibrating with an energy I can feel. And that, in the early 70s, started me on this path of becoming more aware of how to talk to these higher energies, these higher beings, to get information, and then experimentation and feedback from people. I've been doing this as a business for close to 30 years in a business called Metaforms, and we've been building shapes, we've been making jewelry, we've been developing new things like you just referred to, the eye connect, and that's what brought me here. It's been a tremendously fun journey.
I bet, and I have a feeling that you, in a way, were very much a pioneer. You say back in the 70s. I remember being at one of the expos in Los Angeles. I don't know if it was the Conscious Life Expo or the Whole Life Expo, and being drawn to your booth, your Metaforms booth, and there was a big structure there, and all of the jewelry, the Metaforms jewelry. It was just, I didn't quite understand why I felt so drawn in, and I think that was the beginning of my reconnecting to who I really am. And I was wondering if you could share with us, why do you think that we as humans have become so disconnected, and why right now is it so important to find that connection again?
Well, partially, to begin with, it's that we're in density. And density means that as spiritual beings, as multi-dimensional beings, with our roots really at the level of source, at that level where we are infinite, where we are forever connected to everything. But as we congeal into this reality, there is a forgetfulness that comes with it. And there's a long story why, but bottom line, we start to believe that we're just this body. And so an ego starts to develop from the time we're just actually months old. We start developing a sense of self separate from other things. And then as we grow up with that, what we've created today in this reality is working with all the toxins of the kinds of the things produced by internal combustion engines, the toxins in the environment from the chemicals and so forth. These toxins disconnect us in that flow of higher energy. The electricity that comes down from the wiring, all the radio frequencies, all the electromagnetic frequencies that drive our cell phones and our Wi-Fi's. These are frequencies that disconnect us. And then people themselves, in this body, we've kind of bought into a trade-off. In order to be so dense, we've taken on a number of things from this kind of animal physical body, such as the emotional body. And the emotions, like the fear, the anger, the stresses, all these things, they disconnect us too. And so our emotions, they keep us kind of grounded here. Almost like if you were to go out into the ocean and you wanted to walk on the bottom of the ocean and you wanted to see what was going on, you'd put on heavy lead boots and they'd sink you down to the bottom so you could stay down there. Where, we're such amazing beings that our tendency would be to leave, to pop out of this reality if we didn't have some anchors like the emotional body. So the fear that is blocking that flow of love from coming through is also what's keeping us in the physical body. So we have to learn how to overcome that fear, not be driven by the anger, not be driven by the sadness. The stresses in our life have to be let go, and that's not an easy thing. It's easy to think about and talk about, but that's where the tools that I build have come in, because I found that there are ways to create a stronger connection to that higher dimension, to that higher part of our being. And I'm going like this, like, it's higher, it's up there, but really it's inside. Everything, the entire universe, every aspect of our higher nature, the angelic realms, the other realms of the masters, the other realms of source, of God, it's within us. And that's where we need to go. And that's why the emotional body, the stress, the psychological barriers that we have, the psychic barriers that are put up by the way we think and project about each other, those things are very strong. And these are all different levels of our reality, different aspects of these other subtle dimensions that we're already tapping into, but we don't realize it, and instead we're using these things as ways of blocking that flow. So the question is how to break through it and how to move past it, and I think that's where we're going to go next.
Absolutely. Real quickly, though, you touched on technology, and what I find so interesting about modern technology is we've become so reliant on it. And I know I have a natural aversion to technology, yet my life has, out of necessity, become so reliant on it for this sort of work that I do and everything. And tell me, this technology and then the technology behind something like the iConnect, what is the difference? Why is one perhaps good at helping us rebuild that connection and one of them disconnects it?
Well,
does that make sense?
It does. The technologies, what it all comes down to is consciousness. We're operating from a certain level of consciousness that has created a disconnection. So all of our technologies are reflecting that disconnection. Our technologies right now are based on the concept that we have a limited amount of resources. We have a limited reality. We have separate human beings. We have those that have a lot and those that have little. And so we build technologies, we create our reality around this sense of separation. So my thought and my intent and what I'm being guided to do is first we start changing the consciousness of the human being, and then the technologies that will allow us to work with energy for generating light, for generating movement, for generating food and sustenance. All of that will come because it's unlimited. But we can't access that unlimited nature of our being and our universe until the consciousness is there to ground it. And so that's the first thing. Now, the kind of aspects of technology that I'm working with, it's based on sacred geometry. I've been working with sacred geometry, and those for 40 years. And those were the forms I started seeing when I was going through the shifts with the Kundalini. I started seeing patterns and I started building things. But all these things that I was building, the shapes, the forms, the different geometries, they're based on very regular patterns that are reflective of the way the universe builds. And you see, everything is geometry in the third dimension. We have a depth, we have a width, and we have a height. These are the three parameters, the XYZ axis of this reality. Now, as energy comes in from the higher dimensions, it congeals like energy going into jello when it's hot, and then you put it in a mold, and when it cools, it takes on the shape of the mold. And so it is that the energy that we are takes on a particular shape. And so I want to share with you something called the phi ratio. This is a calibers that measures something called the phi ratio. This is the golden mean proportion. The Greeks called it that. They called it the golden mean, the proportion of true beauty, because it is the way everything is created. You see, there's a small part to this calibers and a large part. The small part, if I hold it up to my finger, you can see that my first digit of my middle finger to my whole finger is in this phi ratio proportion. If you take the finger to the hand, it's in that phi ratio proportion. If you take the hand, can you see that, to the elbow, it's in the phi ratio proportion. That very famous drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, where the man has his arms outstretched, and he's showing that there's a phi ratio proportion from the head to the navel to the feet, the whole physical body, the way the DNA is structured, every aspect. That's why plastic surgeons use a caliber like this when they're reconstructing your face to change the shape of your nose, your eyes, the forehead. All of these proportions are built around this particular ratio. Now, it's amazing that the pyramids at Giza that the ancient Egyptians were using relate to this relationship many times, even in the angles that are used. The relationship of the pyramids that the Mayans were building, a whole half world away at a slightly different time but close to the same period, and without connection between the two people, are working with this same ratio. It's something that this is the way creation manifests. And when we build things like out of metal, in this case it's coated with titanium, and what it does is it creates a resonance like an antenna system, and then this antenna starts to bring through energy that we lose in our daily life because of the amount of concrete, because of the amount of the toxins, because of the EMFs in our emotions. We start to get disconnected, but some of these tools, the reason people felt energy is they started feeling connection. And different shapes had different relative connecting points into universal energies. So people started feeling energy in different ways. Sometimes they would feel it more in their heart. Sometimes it'd be more when they meditate. Some things are more physical, and as I've begun to become more sophisticated in understanding how different shapes relate to different things, I've been able to create things that work with cutting out EMFs from an environment and bringing them into coherence, so they become food for us rather than something that blocks that energy of higher self from coming through. And I've been able to shrink it. So I've built small pieces of jewelry with shapes on them that I've found a way to take three-dimensional forms and bring them into two-dimensional antenna systems that relate to the 3D form. And we can talk more about that if you wish, but bottom line, it's something that allows people to connect in to these higher frequencies, and in the case of the pendant, carry it with them. And now the new tool that we have, the iConnect, again, is something that we found ways to make it pocket sized. And we can talk more about all of this as we go on.
Thank you. Thank you for going into that in more detail, and I'm sure we could talk for hours about sacred geometry. I find it fascinating that you've been able to somehow incorporate it into these little devices. And the iConnect itself, what intrigued me, one of the things that intrigued me the most about it, besides having it with me for the past couple of weeks and experiencing it, but was the activation. and how it works when we're coming from our hearts. Would you get into that a little bit for us?
Okay. I think I'll flash some pictures of the eye connect up on the screen so people can see what we're talking about. And so your question is basically what again? What?
Well, there were activation instructions,
Okay.
and the fact that it is entirely based on coming from a heart space and of being of service was wonderful. And if you would go into that a little bit.
Okay. So bottom line, what this piece is doing is it's opening a portal, a doorway to the higher dimensions, to the higher aspects of yourself. And it's creating a connection in that space between you and the biggest part of you. It then starts to create a connection between you and every other human being, you and the planet, you and every plant on the planet, you and the mineral kingdom, you and the animal kingdom. And we're getting feedback from all of these kingdoms and watching things happen that's demonstrating that this is really true. But the connection process at the very beginning is really working with your intent. And it's so important that every aspect of this reality is a reflection of the way you have chosen to view this reality. And every aspect of change that you're involved in is something that's coming from within you, that's some of your understanding of reality being projected out. So it's very important in working with the eye connect that you really connect to it, but you're seeing it as simply a surrogate, a portal through which you're connecting with you. And it's your intent coming to bear on this whole situation that holds so much weight. Because when you bring your intent to focus, and this tool is bringing through so much energy that it makes things manifest at a much more profound level, in a much more profound way. However, when you manifest, you really need to be manifesting not from a level of ego, not from a level of personality, what's going to make this character happy. Ultimately, what makes this character happy is the love that's inside, is the truth that's inside. And so when I connect to what's really real inside me, that's my beingness. And when I manifest from my beingness, then I am creating in a way that will serve you, that will serve everything. It's for the highest good of all. And so that's the importance of connecting it first. And when you want to manifest something, you always work from that perspective for the highest good of all, so that I can be of service to everything. You see, when you're serving everything, part of you goes, the ego part goes, no way, I'm important. I'm not going to be the servant. But when you're the servant, then everything wants to serve you. That's what we don't understand. When we serve the greatest cause, that's when God, that's when higher self, that's when universe comes to play, because it knows we're playing from the real place inside. And so that's the nature of this technology. It's a technology that, unlike the technology of separation, where you could go put a key in a car, all you have to know is how to drive that car. You don't have to know what's going on in that engine. You don't have to know how that engine drives a drive shaft and the differential and how it makes the wheels spin at different rates as you go around the corner. You don't have to be aware of that. All you know is you turn that key and you take the steering wheel and you move that car. But that's not the technology of the future. The technology of the future, in order to keep things in balance, in order to keep things coming from a place of heartfulness, where a reptilian brain is not going to take something and turn it into a weapon to control other people. We're going to be working with technologies that are going to be codependent on our consciousness, our willingness to be of service, our willingness to look beyond ourselves into the whole and to be coming from the whole. And then the energy of that whole, of that higher dimension, is going to be coming through this reality. There is no lack of energy in the universe, only lack of energy in our understanding in the third dimension. Because we take this reality and we want to break it apart. We want to take a hunk of wood and through a chemical reaction create fire, and through a reaction of turning a little bit of that heat into steam and then taking a little bit of that steam, we drove a steam engine or we drive a generator. And so we're so inefficient in the way we create energy, when scientists, quantum physicists, have told us that in a cubic centimeter of matter is more energy than in the entire planetary structure we now are viewing. All we have to do is find how to move that energy through into this dimension and turn it into something of value, like movement and energy for heat and so forth. But that takes consciousness too, and that's why we're the fail-safe mechanism, the consciousness of the new technology and the new realm coming in. So I wanted to share something else about a sacred geometric form of working with energy that's very key in the I Connect, and that is something called the torus. And the toroidal flow of energy, you see right now, this shape, as I'm twisting it, it seems like these colors are coming out from the center. But from this side, the back side of the torus, you see how everything is going into the center. Now this shape is a donut shape that has a hole in the middle. And the way energy works is that through our field right now, energy is flowing, like down from the crown, out through the feet, and up and around again. Now that's the usual way that women flow energy. That's why women are more connected to the earth, more connected to their feelings, Earth Mother. Men flow energy up, out through their crown and down. And the pendant that I've created, we can control the way energy flows through us so we can be more grounded or more connected up in our mental and the higher connections. But the point is, this is the field around us. It's the same field that's around the world, the planet. It's the same field that is moving through our galaxy, where the center is called a black hole. But as that energy is going in, realize that on the backside it's creating. It's a white hole. So the white hole, the black hole, that's a point of creation. And the interesting thing is that every single atom within our being, within everything, is surrounded by what we call electrons. And these are just fields of possibility. Scientists have postulated electrons, but they haven't really seen what an electron is, because an electron comes into and out of reality all the time. Because an electron is this structure that is moving energy not from one part of our reality to another, but from that higher part, from the higher dimensional part. You see, the dimensions that exist around us, within us, are moving into this reality in through this shape, the toroidal shape. And the toroidal flow of energy through every electron of every single atom of your being it's constantly bringing energy in and taking energy out. You're constantly phasing in and out of this reality because you're connecting to all these other realities. You're connecting to all these other dimensions constantly, all the time. It's just that our awareness is not there. Our full body experience is not there. But when we start working with some of these tools that we've created at Metaforms, it's easier to feel those energies. It's easier to start to notice how to work with those higher dimensions and start to see that things manifest differently in our life. I mean, Julie, when you got the eye connect and started working with it, did you feel an energy when you first picked it up, when you started holding it, meditating with it? Did you notice something?
I am not one of those people that instantly has that can sense energy quickly on the physical, consciously like that. But what I did notice is sleeping more soundly and waking up in the very wee hours without getting my full 8 hours like I typically would need, and not, how do I say it? I felt like I had more energy because I didn't need as much sleep. And in those wee hours of the morning, I think I shared with you, Gregory, those were times when I would be half awake and my brain was bringing me all these creative ideas. It was really interesting. It wasn't like the typical monkey mind or the mind chatter that used to, during stressful times of my life, I would wake up and I couldn't shut my brain off and I couldn't get back to sleep, and it was a very annoying thing. Well, this wasn't. This was ideas flowing to me, and I found that so interesting. And one quick thing I want to share too is you brought up the donut shape and the toroidal field without my even having to ask for it. That was going to be exactly what I was going to ask you next, and you just absolutely intuited exactly what I was going to ask you. So how do all these things tie together? And I didn't mean to take you away from your question about energy. So
well, the eye connect itself, I'll flash a picture up here to show people that it's toroidal in shape. The outside skin is stainless steel. It has a hole in the top and a small hole on the backside, forming this toroidal shape with the outside shell. Now, inside, there is so much going on, so many different technologies. Was that partially your question? How does the toroidal shape have an effect, or how does it work with this eye connect?
yep, that was part of it because I noticed the shape of it, and fascinated by what you could put inside this little device that can have such power.
It's well, it's working with the proper things, and so the outside shape itself is toroidal in nature. The surface is a circuit board that has different sacred geometric forms, and you see when you have a geometry and in 3D, you can see that against the one perspective, it looks like this. Another perspective, it takes on a different shape, and then and so it is with every three-dimensional form. There are different perspectives that when I capture those perspectives in 2D, I can capture that geometric energy of the three-dimensional form. So there are over a dozen forms in the eye connect. On the inside, there are electronic circuits. There are oscillating crystals. There are things that are soldered to the circuit board that are creating certain frequencies, certain flows. There are more toroidal fields created by antenna systems that are twisted and wrapped certain numbers of times. And then there are fiber optic antenna systems in the center. There's an alchemical mix of different transition metals, different rare earth minerals, different types of rare energetic crystals, things even like rubies, that a tremendous number of rubies are crushed up and used inside this piece. And it's because the nature of these different elements, when combined in the proper way, I said alchemical. Now, the alchemists we often think of were beings that were living back, when people didn't really have an understanding of technology and they wanted to turn lead into gold. But really, what that's about is turning gross, dross, physical matter into a higher frequency matter. They were working with the dimensional shifts. They were working with frequency change. Sure, there were some that were caught up in the ego of trying to create something like life out of inanimate matter, but science is doing that today. It's like the old alchemists. But the advanced alchemists were finding ways of the proper mixture, the proper combination of, in this case, shapes and forms and elements. Transition metals. There are metals that we use in our iPhones and in our pads and all our touch tone touch elements, touch screen elements, where you need certain elements in there, transition metals, in order for the body to transmit the energy through so the computer reacts. And those particular elements also help us tune into higher elements and higher dimensions as well. So I have certain elements like that in there, placed properly. Then the whole piece itself, we put inside a chamber that is a large tube that is wrapped with wire at a very particular distance, so we're running frequencies through this tube. We have forms within the center of this tube that are spinning in different directions, one in one direction, one in the other direction, creating different toroidal fields, different vortexes. And then these pieces, each one is individually wrapped in purple silk, and it's put inside these forms that are spinning inside this tube where the frequencies are running, and the whole piece is connected to a form that is over 20 feet high on my land in Colorado. And I work with vortexes on my land. It took me 10 years to get this land. It wasn't for sale, but finally it was sold to us, and we are building forms on it in order to work with the vortexes of the entire planet, because the planet itself has energetic flows around it, just like our Earth Mother has flows, just like your body has a flow of energy that goes through the nervous system, that goes through the system we refer to as the circulatory system. There are all kinds of systems, even the acupuncture system, which is separate from these, that moves energy from the higher dimensions. The Earth has a system like that. And there's an entry point on my land. So what I've done is I've built particular shapes and forms and have them planted on the opposite side of the earth from my land, which is next to Uluru, which is Ayers Rock in Australia. So I'm creating a large toroidal flow through the entire planet with Australia that's connected to this form that is wired in to this grid inside my house that is going through these pieces. So, I mean, the technologies that have come together to create the iConnect have been years and years in the coming. And it was my wife who was tuning into it, who's saying, we have to get this piece out there, because this is a piece that's going to start changing people's lives. And the feedback we've been getting from people, it's phenomenal what they're going through. I mean, you talk about sleep, and just the other day, someone called me up. They have a prematurely born child who was born so prematurely that he was kept in the hospital and awakened every couple hours with needles, with intravenous feeding, all this stuff they do to keep a being alive when they're that immature in their birth. And so this child always had a problem sleeping. So she got an eye connect and brought it home. Just having the eye connect around her, around this child, the child for the first time in 2 years started sleeping through the night. So it's not just a function of your intent and you working with you, but it's the field around you. I have people that have started noticing their animals start behaving differently. Their animals start almost wanting to communicate with them telepathically, where they understand immediately what you want. They almost hear it inside. I've had people talk about how other people start reacting to them differently. It's like people come up and they just want to share their life story with you because there's something they're attracted to. And it's like when you said you came in and saw my booth a couple years ago at LA or wherever we were, that you were attracted and you didn't know why. You see, there's a higher part of ourself that is attracted to energy. And when people come over to my booth and they're attracted to, like, this piece of jewelry that I'm wearing, I know that that's really their higher self saying, pay attention. Because whatever we see as beautiful in this world, this is God's way, this is higher self's way of saying, pay attention. We're attracted to what we're supposed to be doing. What feels good is what's right for us. What doesn't feel good is an aspect of ourselves that we need to clean up. It's an aspect that's inside of us. When we see someone that's being really ugly and mean, we go, oh my God, either I've got to change this on the outside and on the inside because this isn't something that feels good. We recognize these things more and more clearly the more conscious we become. And so people are attracted to the energy. That's really what they find is beautiful. And then some people feel the energy. They'll put it on their third eye, they'll put it on their heart, and they'll feel the energy going through. And the exciting thing is, though, once they start adapting to the energy, then it's not so much about feeling the energy, but what it's really about is using this as a tool to manifest your reality, to create what's going to be of service, to create what your purpose is here on this planet. We're all such amazing beings, and we've come here for very particular reasons. Each one of us has an opportunity. Each one of us has very unique purposes that we want to manifest. That's when we feel complete. That's when we feel fulfilled. And yet, if we can't touch that space within us, then it's difficult to know, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm only surviving. I'm only just filling the void. And that's one of the sad things about today's society, is that there are people that have gotten in control and they have so much fear driving them that they want to maintain that control, and they are feeding people, the entertainment, the drugs, the alcohol, the things that will say, well, it feels okay to do this. I'm going to do this to feel good. I'm just going to survive while I'm here, and then who knows what happens when I leave. But this is the place to create heaven. This is the place to bring that love and joy. And this is the place when you can manifest your true potential. Because that's why the angelic realm, these higher dimensional beings I speak to, feel that we are the fortunate ones because we get to play out this reality. The time of 2012 is the time of such dramatic shifts on the planet, and it's happening right now. We need to just be able to be open to those shifts. Like earlier when I was talking about this energy flowing around the planet. Well, NASA measures that energy, the electromagnetic field of the planet, and through a project they call THEMIS, they have found that the planet's field is expanding. And as the planet's field expands, what happens is more solar energy comes in, more cosmic radiation comes into the planet, which means this field is your field too. And as your field is getting bombarded by more solar radiation, by more cosmic radiation, energy influx means that there is more change going on. Whenever you add more energy to a system, like when you add heat to ice, you turn it into water. More heat, more energy, and it becomes steam. That's what's happening to us. We are transitioning. We are transforming. We are literally becoming more aware of more stuff going on around us. That's why you're attracted to interviewing the people that you are right now and wanting to find out more of how can I make my life and other people's lives better on this planet. Something within us is driving us, and it's that higher connection. And these are tools, and what I mean by a tool is something like a hammer that, say, I could give you a hammer and you might take it and build a house, or you might crack your thumb in the process. It's not the hammer's fault. And yet when you're done, you built the house, not the hammer. But to try to do it without that tool, when that's the tool that helps you leverage energy. And the tools that I'm building help people leverage energy, bring through more energy, bring through a clarity, open up a possibility. So it's them doing it, but that possibility isn't even there in today's environment because of all the things that disconnect us. And yet, when you start to experience that possibility coming open in your life, it starts to become so exciting. That's what you're tuning into at 4:30 in the morning. It's that information coming in of who you truly are that wants to support you in your process. And you're sleeping deeply, more deeply, I understand, at the beginning of your night's sleep, because what the eye connect is doing is it's allowing you to connect so deeply into spirit, and that's the purpose for sleep. It's to help us connect to spirit. It's to help us connect to who we truly are. And when we connect to that place, that's when we can truly be in our power. And that's what the eye connect does. I've got testimonials that go on for half an hour from people that say, it's helping me manifest this stuff. It's helping me not take my life so personally. I'm beginning to not be, turned around by fears anymore. Fears don't drive me. All the stresses in my life aren't driving me. I just feel good. I feel alive. I feel empowered. People that have gotten these over the course of the last couple months. We've only been doing this since January, and yet I have people that are saying they're really not fearful of stepping into their power. They've seen what it is they're here to do. They're starting to reach out. They're not afraid to be in front of other people. They're not afraid to be doing what it is they've been created to do. And it's so incredible. It's so incredible to see that love coming out. And that's the purpose of these tools, is to bring that love out. And we guarantee it. That means if someone gets one and they don't want it, send it back, because someone else will want it. And it's not for everyone. It's for people that are really ready to make that transition in their lives. People that are ready to open up to who they truly are and ready to step into their power and become the vanguards for the new age that is coming on the planet. NASA is measuring it, all types of scientific things that we're measuring on the planet is seeing the energy shifts changing. We're seeing things speed up. And NASA, even another friend, can you believe this? He said, NASA actually has been measuring something where their only parameter is that time seems to be speeding up, seems to be going faster. And we certainly know that. We certainly recognize that from the standpoint of all the things we're involved in. That here we are, we're talking over the computers, and then we're going to work with our computers, and we work with our iPhones, and we work with all types of equipment that allows us to multitask and allows us to talk to so many people simultaneously, and so much is getting packed into every day that we measure time by the number of elements that are happening in that time space. And more elements are happening in our time space. And so time from that perspective alone is seeming to go faster. But it really comes down to one thing. How do you ride it without having it ride you out of existence? How do you keep from being ridden into an early death because you're overloaded with the stresses of trying to deal with all of this reality? And the only place you can ride it out from is from the inside of your heart, from the core of your being. And when you come from there, you can ride all of this. Then it becomes fun. Then the things that don't work during the day simply are texture that just give our life a fun little blip because it's something to deal with. It isn't the car having a flat tire, where you go, oh, I got to deal with this thing. It's just like, well, that's my left rear tire. Why did that happen? What's going on? I mean, it's like my wife is so expert at working with this that she, a couple weeks ago, we have chickens, and she was attacked by the rooster, and he gashed her across her chin with about a 3/4 inch gash that wouldn't stop bleeding for a couple of hours. It was like black and blue. It was really, he hit her hard. And she worked with one of the forms we have, and she worked with the iConnect. She got to the source of, your first thought is, well, we're going to have chicken soup for dinner tomorrow. But no, she went into the fact of what happened. Why did I allow this to happen? What was my wake-up call? What was it I needed to learn? And she worked with the iConnect, and literally 3 days later, I was looking at her chin from 2 inches away, and I couldn't see a scar. I couldn't see where there had been any kind of injury at all. And we were both blown away that the potential for things shifting are so fast. But again, it's not just fixing the external, it's working with the internal messages, the internal understanding of all of this. And when we blend it together, when we meld it together, then the solutions, then things come together and come out. I've been talking so much, we probably need to have a question or a break.
Well, no, I appreciate your passion. It's completely apparent how exciting this must be for you to be able to be providing us with something like this, and I just love it. And I just think also just being able to consciously respond to the blips you mentioned that life brings us, that we create for whatever reason, rather than being in fearful or irritated reaction, is an enormous gift. And the clarity and the balance that you speak of. I just wanted to share a friend of mine who I actually handed him my iConnect a couple of weeks back. And right as I was handing it, he was like, "What is that?" I said, "Why?" Because unlike me, he can actually feel energy. And the moment he took it in his hand, he said, everything just zoomed in, like into absolute pinpoint focus right there. He felt it, and I was like, wow, I wish I'd like to be able to cultivate that kind of sensitivity to the energy myself. But I want to thank you, Gregory, because I read something in your literature here that one empowered conscious individual can overcome the energy of millions of fear-driven souls. That is exciting.
you know, it's always been that way. It's always been the opportunity for you to make the difference in the world. And, you know, there have been many people that have spoken to that. And it became very evident that when there's a soul like Jesus, a soul like Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, walking on the planet, the number of people that they affected with their energy is what is coming to bear right now on the planet. Those who are really willing to step up and touch the core of their being and touch who they truly are and be able to share that with the world have the power to shift thousands and thousands of souls who are right now just struggling to survive, who are struggling with fear, and in that chaos their energy field has very little impact on the whole. But for a focused, a clear individual, and the clarity that comes through some of these devices, that's the purpose of that clarity, is to bring it into a space where then we can go forth and really change the world, but change it from a place of our beingness, change it from a place of love, change it from a place of understanding. Because you can't change it because we judge this is bad and this is good. That isn't where you change it from. You can't judge really why things are happening. All you can do is share what's real for you in your heart, and that in its power, in its clarity, in its focus, will have the ability to change what's going on in the outward manifestation. Realize that these things that we see in this world start somewhere else far before they become physical. It starts on the higher dimensions. This is a realm of effects. There are no causes in this dimension. That's a really important thing that scientists, that all of us get deluded into thinking that this is a cause and effect reality where we have to change the things in this reality to change the effects. But we really need to change things on higher dimensions first. Like first, we change things in our emotional field. And then that starts to shift the way we work with stuff. We change things mentally in our thought process, in our intent. We change things psychologically. We change things psychically. These are all different dimensions, different aspects of our being. We change things on a soul level, on the level of creation. That's where everything comes from the causal level, that level we call God, that level we call soul. That's the level on which we can start to operate, on which we can start to touch. And when we start to see that, then we don't have to go through this stuff down here where we hit a wall to find out, oh my God, I was going too fast, I was going in the wrong direction. Because reality always shows us, we come right smack up against it. It hits us right in the face and we go, this doesn't feel good. Maybe I've got to change. But what happens is we find the same kind of character that was our father or our mother before, and we marry them, and they become a boyfriend, a girlfriend, and we go through the same people, and we go through the same job situations. We're doing repeat, 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 until something says, do you understand what you're doing? Do you understand that you have an option to change? This can help people get the power to change. It's finding that space within you of what's true, what's real, and then going to it and being it. So I'm just repeating myself now.
That's okay. It's just perfect. And you just touched on so many topics today that are so connected and are taking responsibility for our own energy fields this way. And living our purpose is just so absolutely necessary for healing this troubled world. And the technology that you've developed is fascinating. And I just want to let our listeners know, for anyone who would like to investigate further, and we've created a couple different ways that you can do so easily. One of them just by clicking on Gregory's offerings button that you'll see on your screen if you are listening here on your computer. Or you can also go directly to a special link, which is www.calltoawaken.com/Hoag, Hoag. So, Gregory, would you please take a moment and explain what we'll find at this link?
At that link, you'll find our website, and there should be pictures that will be evident to lead you to the iConnect, to the e-pendant, to forms, to other testimonials, to other information that we have there. Probably an aspect of this video, we're going to be sharing back and forth a lot. So it'll be our website.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as we begin to wind down our hour, I'm wondering if you have any last thoughts. I know there's so much more to talk about, but what would be the most important message you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
Oh, it's such a wonderful opportunity to be alive right now, to be in a human body right now. Many, 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 many of us have chosen to be here at this time because this is a time when the energies are shifting so dramatically. There is so much support, so much help coming in from all the different realms, all the different aspects of our being, that if we just open up to that help and we just sincerely ask for what our next step is, it will be given to us. And all we have to do is allow. It's not a matter of trying to make this all happen. It's just simply being in your center, being in love, feeling good, and allowing the universe to support you in your path. And it's fun to watch the movie and to be a star in it. And that's what each one of us is here for, to be a star in this whole incredible movie. So, thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you. It's been a huge treat for me to have you with us today. I just so appreciate your dedication and these amazingly supportive tools that you've created. And I just want to say thank you for helping us tap into our hearts and our truths.
Thank you, Julie.
It's extraordinary, so thank you. And I just want to say thank you also to all of you folks who are on the line, contributing your positive energies to us throughout this call. And want to just say thank you so much. And until next time, thank you all so much for following your call to awaken. Thanks, Gregory. Take care.
Thank you, Julie. Bye-bye.